Hello everyone, welcome to the first edition of Protean Tech web series where we'll help you understand our different businesses better. In the first edition, we're going to cover our InfoSec business. For that, we have a veteran, a thought leader, and very well known name in the industry. Not only that, he's associated with this company since 1996. Now he's currently the MD and CEO of Protean Infosec Services. I'm very happy to invite the ever delightful Mr. Milind Mungale. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Paul. Hello, all.
So for this edition, I have prepared a few questions where we're going to talk about our business offerings, target audience, our roadmap, and the suggestions on certain issues. So let us get on to the questions. First question, I'm very curious to know. We are in this business for 25 years and we've been managing very, very critical data. Why did we choose to get into the business now?
So basically, it is like this that last 25 years, what we have been doing is we have been capturing the information, handling the information, processing the information, storing it, rendering it, and safekeeping it. If you see in last 25 years, we have handled such a critical data of national interest that securing this data was our prime objective and main motto. With that experience of securing this data, we have gained the confidence of providing these services to the other organizations. When we started this long time back, we did not have so much of technology, at the same time expertise. We learned a hard way. We learned many things. We evolved, we matured, and now we want to use this all experience and knowledge to serve the other organization. That's the reason we have decided to come into this particular business line.
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful sharing your experiences. That comes to the next question, very important question. Who do you think our target customers are?
So look at it like this, that everyone who is handling critical information is our target customer. We are not restricting ourselves to a particular sector or a particular segment of customers. We would like to address from small to large, from this end of the spectrum to that end, that is from BFSI to pharma or hospitality or education, manufacturing, even government. So anyone who has information which is personally identifiable information, financially sensitive information, critical from the point of view of their business continuity and sustainability, we would like to definitely help them, serve them. They would be our target customers.
Wonderful, sir. With the credentials we have, definitely we can, serve all these customers that you've mentioned. Now that we would like to understand the different types of services that you would intend to offer our customers.
That's a very good question. Of course, whatever we have learned, we would like to offer, but we have bucketed into various services. First and foremost thing, what we have realized over a period of time is that no organization can build a security overnight. No organization can start with an highest matured security architecture from its inception. Everyone matures over a period of time. So there's something called as a security architecture, which is formed for the organization to provide services to its customer. And over a period of time, as the organizations grow or the requirements grow, they keep on patching the security architecture with either new technologies or new policies or some kind of new implementations. And that is where the weakness can creep into such kind of architectures. We are providing our first service into cybersecurity architecture and framework, for which we have come out with our own Protean Sustainable Security Framework, which helps organizations to implement an holistic 360-degree cybersecurity. It doesn't need everything to be replaced. What we are trying to do is we are trying to identify what is the current state. We are trying to identify if there are any gaps and provide an economically viable and a suitable relevant solution to plug those gaps. If someone has got a very old security architecture and if they require that entire architecture has to be revamped, we could provide them with a complete blueprint of what their architecture should be. And that's basically what we are providing as a part of our first tower cyber and information security architecture review. The second and most important thing for which we have been also doing a lot of work within the organization for last 25 years, is the governance, risk and compliance. Now, as long as BFSI is concerned, almost all the entities are regulated. They have to have a good governance. They have certain risks which other segments or other sectors don't experience, and they have to comply with all the legal as well as regulatory requirements. And that's basically where many people have a difficulty in interpreting, understanding, and complying. We have born in the regulatory environment, we have lived a regulatory environment, and we have successfully been complying with all the regulations that have been implied on our kind of business. And that's exactly what we want to provide as a service to other organizations when it comes to talking about governance, risk and compliance. Now, the second part of it is the data privacy and protection. We must try and understand the data protection bill is already in discussion for a long time. People are just waiting it to be completely changed into an act. As soon as the act comes into the play, almost all the organizations who are handling personal data of their customers will have to comply with that. And we are trying to be ahead of time and prepare our potential customers to be able to comply with the data privacy and data protection requirements. The third part of it is that we are talking of is tech services. In tech services, we have further divided it into three pieces. The first one is an assessment. Now, here also when we talk of assessment, it's with a bit of our own flavor, because normally people do assessment point in time. They do it as a part of a compliance requirement, or they do it as a part of their good practices. But when it comes to talking about assessment, over a period of time, we have observed and learned that a trend analysis and a follow-up action after the assessment is completed is very, very important. So what we are providing is an assessment maturity model, which will actually take the customer through a journey of maturing into an established assessment practice. In that, the next part comes is the audit. There are hundreds and thousands of people who can do audit. We are not worried about who can do a good audit. We know there are lots of entities and organizations and individuals who have those skills and they do a fantastic job. But as 25 years, what we experienced was the other side of the table. Before, during and after the audit process, what goes in the mind of a customer? There is an anxiety, there is a confusion, and there are sometimes interpretation issues. We are going to provide our customers with the services of an audit help desk, where we will sit next to the customer if the auditors permit, or we will train the customers for preparing the audit, for facing the audit, and for complying with the audit observation post the audit report is submitted. And we will follow up, we will help, we will assist, and that's what is unique about our service proposition. And the final thing is, you must see that today cyber threat has become an threat for each household. There was a time when information security threats or cyber threats used to be always focused on large organizations. Today, they are attacking individual households, because that's where the weak link is when it comes to talking about corporates. Last nearly 2 years, because of pandemic, we have seen almost everyone work from their home. They moved out of the secured network of their organization and they moved into their home Wi-Fi routers, which was and is insecure. Now, how does the organization protect itself when they are not able to control from where the traffic will come? The only way is to spread awareness, to train the people, and to build an appropriate culture across the organization. And that's exactly what we are going to do as a part of our training and awareness. So in short, these are the services which we intend to offer, and in times to come, we also intend to convert these services into a platform-based service. So that's what it is.
Very interesting and very informative, sir. In fact, you've answered my next question, but still, you said a lot about, servicing our customers and handholding our customers. Now, we have a very excellent pedigree, and though not many companies can claim our credentials, what makes us different from the current players? Because we are a new entrant, and why do customers have to come to us?
Look, let us understand. Customers can relate to us directly because we have not been born as consultant or vendors. We have been in their shoes for last 25 years. We have a real time and live seen the difficulties and challenges that any customer faces, and we have gathered all that knowledge and converted into an offering which can very properly and appropriately relate to the challenges that the customer face. Our whole focus is customer and customers data. Our approach is data centric, and we have been very good at becoming a good customer. We are going to help our customers to become very good customers when it comes to talking about security. So that's the difference. We don't call ourselves vendors. We are on the same side of our customers. We are trying to offer them those services which they have to take from somewhere outside because of certain constraints, either budget or skills or manpower. Now, we have been 25-year-old customers, and we are trying to give services to other customers. So, that's the difference between us and those who actually opened an consulting organization. They were born consultants. So, we are experiencing what the customer is experiencing, and we are trying to provide them services through that. So, that's the main difference between what Protean can do and what others can do.
Rightly said, sir, because everybody is customer obsessive now, and we have to be partners with the customers to help them out. Now, coming on to the next question, you talked about our consulting services. What is the roadmap that we have? Do we intend to add products to our offerings?
Yes, of course. Once we start these services, if we have to reach out to the masses, we cannot continue providing these services like an work of art. But before that, we have to prep ourselves. We have to actually see how our experience, knowledge, and wisdom is applicable to the people outside in various segments and sectors. And that's exactly what we are trying to do now. Once we get a good idea of how this whole thing works for them, and with their inputs, we intend to convert that into platform based services. But that will be taking some time. Secondly, we will never be those kind of platform based services where there is no face behind the platform. You simply have to subscribe and avail that services. We'll always have an personal and an human touch with our customers. We'll always assist them, and that's basically our differentiation from other platform based services, where we will provide an automated platform based services with an human touch.
Thank you, sir. So you talked about data security, and in this connected world, data gets transferred between multiple stakeholders, and many a times, data breaches happen where down the supply chain. So I had recently come up with an article where a guy had revealed that he was able to fetch data between two different platforms of an edtech company. Right, he was able to get personal data from a URL shortener, so which was actually listed on Google, indexed on Google. So companies now have to be very, very, they have to redefine themselves to stay on top of the game. So what would be your suggestions for companies who would be sharing data down the supply chain?
So it's not only the supply chain, but it's also the stakeholders, it's also the employees. As we see, because almost all the employees are working from home for some time, and now that hybrid working is also going on, a lot of data gets distributed across the laptops of the employees. They need it because they have to do the work. All organizations cannot overnight change their way of working. The entire working model and design was oriented towards that employees will work from office, and they will have an fortified perimeter behind which all the employees will do their functions. Now suddenly that perimeter has vanished. So it's not only the supply chain with whom the data is being shared, but it is various entities. So first and foremost thing the organization needs to do is to identify the data. If we ask many of the organizations, do they have a proper inventory of their data? I wouldn't be surprised if they struggle with the answer. The second thing is that once you have identified your data, it's necessary that the customers or the organizations should identify the location of the data, where all it is spread. Earlier, there used to be a control copy. Now, in digital world, there's nothing like a control copy. So, it becomes very necessary to identify the location of the data. And third is that the security has to be data centric, not infrastructure centric or location centric. Wherever that piece of data is, it should be secured using the same principle that organization wants it to be secured. Now, whether that data is with the supply chain player, whether it is with the board director, whether it is with the employee in his laptop or in the mobile, or it is in the public domain like OneDrive or Google, we have to make sure that this data is protected equally with the same kind of protection anywhere and everywhere it is residing. And that's why knowing what is your data, knowing who is using it, knowing where is it being stored and where it is being used is very, very important. I think if some efforts are put initially towards complying and compiling this particular information, organization will be able to protect their data.
All right, so thank you. So you talked about work from home and employees accessing the data. Now, as per statistics, the root cause of majority of the ransomware attacks are through phishing and spam emails. As employees, we get a lot of emails every day. So how do we pick the spam from the genuine ones? Is there a suggestion that you have for us or some guidelines you can give us?
Yeah, so first and foremost thing, there are very obvious things which we don't look at. How many times when an email comes to you, you look at what domain it is come from? You just look at the name. That too, it is a very quick glance. And if the name resembles to someone you know, without taking the notice of whether there is a spelling mistake in the name or that domain is looking a bit different or funny, we simply decide that this mail is genuine mail. And that is something which becomes very, very necessary when it comes to talking about spreading the awareness in the employees. And that is something which each organization should commit to when it comes to talking about educating the employees in identifying how they should not get fooled by such kind of mails. It is not only for the organization but for an individual also. We are talking about the organization, but just imagine if someone sends a mail on an individual employee's Gmail ID, and if it happens to be a phishing mail, then that employee could end up losing his information and sometimes even losing his money. It's the organization's responsibility because they have resources, they have means, and they have the necessary budget to train all the employees so that the organizations are also safe and the employees themselves are also safe. Second thing is that they should encourage the employees to act like whistleblowers whenever it comes to. Most of the time, few of the employees would look at the mail, some of them would realize it is a phishing mail, they'll delete it and keep quiet. There has to be a process which is properly followed by each one, that such a mail should be immediately reported to the central administration team, and the administration team could then go hunt for who all have received this mail and eradicate it from the network of the organization. These all things are part of culture building. In the childhood, everyone is told wash your hands and then have your lunch or dinner. Now, today, no one is telling, but almost all of us would follow that practice even today. Why? That is because that's the culture which we are built in our own upbringing and while we are doing our day-to-day course. And that's exactly what is required for all the employees to follow.
Thank you, sir. I think a lot of employees are going to get benefited out of it. Now, sir, in your earlier responses, you talked about training. So, do you have any ideas of training employees and companies on cybersecurity?
So, primarily, what we do is instead of going by and standard training material, which normally would be audio video recorded and would be given to everyone, saying that see whenever you want to see and comply with the training requirements. We actually try to come out with our training material which is customized to that organization. We put in a bit more efforts. We try to understand where the organization culture is, whether the organization has a lot improvements requirements, or whether the organization is already a matured organization, and based on that we actually come out with the training content. So at present, if you see, it is customized to the need of the organization, looking at the employees of the organization, their culture and the level. So we never mix up senior level employees and the junior level employees in the same training program. We never give them the same training program because each one of them have to look at it from different perspective.
All right, so thank you. We have come to the last question, and I found this image online, which is funny and also scary. Here, this lady talks about, somebody has discovered her password, and she says now she has to rename her dog. Most of us can relate to this because nowadays we have to remember a lot of passwords. How do we actually secure our password, considering that we have to remember so many passwords?
So what happens is normally people find the easy way out. Either they keep the same password for all the logins, or they give some kind of a password which would be a series by itself. For example, ABC12, ABC13, ABC14. Of course, they don't give such simple passwords. I have to give that as an example over here. Remember, wherever you have a choice, and almost all the portals, sites and all the public services provide you with a facility to have a multi-factor or a two-factor authentication, which would mean that it won't open up for you only based on the password. It will also have an option to tick that every time you want to log in, I will either ask you some secret question or I will send you an OTP. Now, people want convenience. If they want convenience, they won't tick that option because it is easy to remember the password. If they ask for the second factor authentication, they'll have to remember the answer to the question, or they will have to have a mobile with them. It should be charged. The OTP should reach in time. They will have to read it and enter that OTP. They don't want these efforts. So they find the easy way out. They give some password which they can remember and they try to log in using that password alone. But in today's era, if someone is observing your traffic, and even if you log in for 5 or 6 times, it is practically possible probably that the person to reverse engineer and guess your password. So from that point of view, the first and foremost thing is do away with passwords. If you have an option of logging in using some other modality, don't use passwords. If you have an option of logging in using an OTP, fantastic, because OTP is one-time password. As soon as you enter that, it dies. No one can steal that, and even if they steal, it is of no use for them. And that's exactly what I would recommend everyone to do.
Sure, sir. I think most of the companies follow a two-factor authentication now, and OTP is a good suggestion for companies to follow because it dies quickly. So thank you so much,
There are
sir.
many other things like OTP is there, authenticators are there. OTP can be on SMS, also on email. So there are various options available for this, and I believe that people should start adopting it not only for organization but also for their personal use.
All right, sir. So we've come to the end of the session. Thank you so much for patiently answering all our questions. It was a pleasure having you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.